All right, well, thank you all. So my name is Jose Luis Martinez, or JL for short. And yes, you can tell that I'm not from around. I'm from Mexico. You can tell that by my accent. So please feel free to stop me if what I'm saying is not coming clear. I'll take no offense. You just say like, hey, can you repeat that? And I will be glad to do it. So thank you, Dan, for the opportunity. So this is part of my certification as a trainer in the auxiliary. And what I'm going to do is to cover just a portion of the chapter 5. This is about risk management in the Both America course. So I think if we're talking about risk management, a good start point is to discuss what is a risk. So who can help me by telling me what you know or what you think that is a risk?
Getting out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Well,
Being filmed on your first presentation?
That's not a risk. That's also something that the risk is gone. So that would be an issue.
Yeah,
but
but
yes,
you step on a toy and
the toy is a risk. So this is good. This is good. To have a toy is the risk. When you step on it in the darkness and you just slip and you fall, there is no risk anymore.
No,
Then
there's no
it becomes an
management
issue.
either.
Yep.
Another risk. Any other ideas or thoughts?
Well, if a toy is a risk, then certainly a boat is a risk.
Boat is-
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
Pretty much anything you do, drive a car, drive a boat, there is an element of danger or threat or personal
There
injury
you go.
involved.
What you
Perfect.
eat for breakfast?
So let's take a look at this. So there are, I mean, if you Google it, you are going to see that there are hundreds, if not thousands of definitions, right? So I just picked a couple of them. So usually when we think about what a risk is the possibility of a loss or an injury, like stepping on a toy or anything else when we're boating. For sure, there are a lot of risks, or something that creates or suggests a hazard. So the bottom line is, when you think about a risk, it's something that is going to cause harm, right? However, there is another definition which I particularly likes more. And this is also an official definition, and is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, have a positive or negative effect on an object. So a risk, when we thought, and I'm included, when you think of a risk, is something bad. But the interesting thing is that also a risk could bring something good.
We're getting back into gambling again.
Yeah. So this is a boating class. So let's stick with what could be dangerous, what could pose a hazard. But just to clarify the positive, in a different environment, like for example in finance, when you think about a positive is when the markets, get into a positive environment and you win because you bought stock. This is a risk, but it's positive. Again, this is not a financial market class, so let's stick to our class.
you just had some risk right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was not on purpose.
Right.
So the objectives. Thank you so much.
Allow me to remove the
Yeah,
risk.
thank you.
You're you're not removing it, you're lessening it.
Yeah.
So what are our lessons objectives, right? So first of all is to increase this probability. We read in the previous slide about the uncertainty of an event. So the objective here is to increase the probability that the positive events occur, or to decrease the probability of the negatives, which is what in our case we want to deal with. To reduce or eliminate the threats that we are going to see and we are going to be exposed when we boat, effective use of our resources, and the communications. So it's not only about to say, oh, there is a risk, but also to make sure that we speak about it and we communicate it to the others around us, okay? So what are risk elements? Some examples. Again, we started just a couple minutes ago about some of them. Anybody, Don, you can think about any other elements of risk that you can think of as an example?
Time of day.
Could be, absolutely, yeah. We spoke about the toys, so that would be objects that we're not aware of, right? Combined with the amount of light that we have. We discussed about getting up in the middle of the night, right? Going to the bathroom, you don't turn off you do not turn on the lights, and you just get into the toy and right.
There's an element of risk there.
So these are just some examples of. This is by no means this is an all comprehensive list, but those are examples that we might have to deal with. Whether the age and the gender. So you would be, well, I was surprised to know that statistics show that when we're talking about male adults between 26, 25 years and 50, those are the most that are involved in accidents when boating, right? Alcohol, I think that is quite obvious. It's a risk. Not per se to drink it, but then again, if you are the operator, the amount of alcohol that you're drinking, etc. The safety equipment. And when we go to the case that we're going to review in just a few more minutes, we're going to see how the safety equipment, PFDs, were involved and how they didn't help. The vessel itself, right? So Dan was just talking about it just during the last hour or so, the different types, the right of way, etc. So you have to be aware of all of that in order to determine what risks you are exposed to. And the lack of training, or maybe you have the training. Well, obviously, I'm pretty sure that in this room there is a good amount of training, but out there is how we exercise that training, or the other folks, young or even adults, they get into a class, they say like, oh yeah, I got my certificate, but if you do not apply the training or you don't remember it when you need it, then it's good for nothing, okay? So again, this is not like all comprehensive list, but these are just some of those risk elements. So, okay, we discussed about risks. Now, what is risk management? So risk management is a process. It's a process of how we identify the risk first, then to assess those risk elements that we have identified before, and then how we are going to respond to those. So we identify, we assess, and then we plan for them, okay? So if we keep it simple, let's start with identifying. And when we say identify is what could go wrong? A very simple question, yet powerful. So we have to invest, I would say, not spend, but really invest time in thinking ahead what could go wrong. And I know that when we vote, I think that the most important thing is, hey, let's have a good time. Either we're going to go for fishing, or we're just going to be skiing, or whatever. You think about how much fun you're going to have. But it's important also to say, okay, wait a second. What if? What could go wrong? So again, some things that we need to think about, like extreme temperature, the motion. I mean, if it's going to be a windy day, maybe the waves that you're going to have are going to be something to consider. Potential engine failures, to go overboard. Just a personal anecdote that I can share with you. The company that I worked before the current one has the headquarters in Milwaukee, and I used to take the ferry from Muskegon. And I never before that experienced motion sickness. And I remember that day the captain was saying, if you're prone to motion sickness, before boarding with your car, take a pill. I said like, oh, I'm going to be okay, because I have never experienced motion sickness. And he said, waves are 6 feet tall today. First mistake. I said like, that cannot be, it's Lake Michigan, we're not in the ocean, it's a lake. First mistake, assume.
Not the same.
I just can tell you that just because a miracle, I did not puke, because I had the worst time of my life. I mean, it's a ferry, right? It was just like, and I could hear people. I was like closing my eyes, not a good idea, and I could hear people just like, like, oh my God, no. So those things you have to consider. And if somebody's telling you that, hey, this is the environment, waves are this tall, etc. You better listen, okay? So again, what could go wrong? That's the first thing. Identify. Now that you made your list of what could go wrong, the next step is, okay, if that happened, if that goes wrong, then how is going to impact me? Because maybe something can go wrong, but I say like, well, but that is not going to affect me. But if it does, how? So again, I'm trying to keep my points in correlation. So if we're talking about extreme temperatures, you could dehydrate, right? Is one thing. If you are talking about motion, my example, so you can get motion sickness. Either you prevent it by just taking Dramamine, for instance, or just keep it with you, bring it on board. Engine failure, right? So is the maintenance of your engine up to date, or maybe you want to go that weekend, you want somebody to take a look because you don't want to be adrift, right? That's something that you do not want. Or going overboard, drowning. You do not want to deal with a fatality, okay? Another quick one about dehydration. I like to do mountain biking, and I remember before the pandemic, there was a heat wave warning, and that day my buddies and I said like, oh, let's go and hit the trail. Mistake. I got a heat stroke. Again, never experienced. I did not listen, and I was drinking. I was riding and stopping every, I don't know, maybe 5 miles and drinking. That was not enough for my body. We just finished. I was just mounting my bike again, and then all of a sudden I started like, fortunately I was not alone. What could go wrong, right? If they are telling you there's going to be a heat wave, maybe something that could go wrong is that I got dehydrated. Now, I assess once I identify, I assess then what I'm going to do. So the response planning. Either I can eliminate the risk. Most of the time that is not possible. Most of the time, but I could. If that happened, how I'm going to deal with it, how I'm going to mitigate it. Like the word says, is how I'm going to reduce the impact. Or simply, I will have to accept it. There is nothing that I can do. So then either I change my plans completely, or then I literally accept the risk and deal with it. I am accepting it, but at least I was aware of it. So once again, so in this case, well, I can just bring enough water, right, for everybody on board. The medication, again, either take it in advance or just bring it with me. Preventive maintenance, or bringing the safety equipment, PFDs, or anything else that I consider is going to be needed. So this is a very simple yet descriptive way of how risk management is going to be for us when we are doing voting. So real life accidents. So Dan also mentioned about an hour ago. Let's go over something that you might be aware, either because you like voting or because you are a American football fan. So this is a case that happened about 10 years ago. With 2 professional NFL players. This happened in Florida, Clearwater. It was a vessel, about 21 feet single engine boat. They were 4 male adults again. 3 of them were NFL professional players. The 4th one was the best friend of one of them. Corey Cooper is the name of this professional player. Anybody is familiar with the case?
Yeah, and it wasn't 10 years ago, was it? It can't be that long ago.
It's 2009.
Really?
Yep. So.
Holy cow, it seems just like yesterday.
Yes. Marquis Cooper is one of them. Perhaps from the 4 of them, the one that draw more of the attention. So one of the facts is that the boat was not rented. Cooper was the one Marquis Cooper was the owner of the boat, and he liked to go in fishing trips. So it was not a new thing for him. So he owned the boat. He just tell his friends, "Hey, let's go for a fishing trip." They went 70 miles offshore just to get a good fishing experience, I would say. They have PFDs on board, so that was not a problem. And the problem that they face is that when they spend most of the day fishing, obviously, they set the anchor, and when they said, okay, it's time to go back home, they realized that the anchor was stuck. So they tried to remove it using the conventional ways. They couldn't. And then the problem is that somebody, at least the data or the facts don't specifically tells who made the decision. They start the engine assuming that by the power of the engine they will release the anchor, okay? So by doing so, what happened is that the vessel, you can imagine, the water start coming in and then capsizing. So this was captured just for you, for reference. There is a book. He is the only survivor, Nick Schuler, who was not a player, football player. So this is the book, just in case you are interested on reading it. So those are the facts, okay? This is a real picture from Associated Press. This is the boat when they were finally, well, he was finally rescued 2 days later. So, as I mentioned before, they attempt to release the anchor by trusting the boat. That did not work. The vessel capsized, and how we know all of that? Because the only one survivor. So things that he mentioned when he speak about what happened is that everybody wore the PFDs. However, after many hours, the 3 who died, they took it off. They did not stay together. Everybody was just hanging on the capsized boat, but they were not, again, together, trying to keep heat by doing so. And we are going to see this in the next slides when Dan take over again. They were stranded for 46 hours. The other 3 bodies were never recovered because when they took off the vest, pretty much the bodies just start going all directions. So what are the elements of risk that you consider that could have helped to prevent this accident, or at least to mitigate it? What do you think, Rich? What are your thoughts, for instance?
Well, the idea of starting the engine, making sure you knew where your anchor line actually was, not where you thought it was.
Yep.
They obviously did not have control of the boat.
Okay.
Even
Yeah.
after starting the engine, because you probably were going donut type.
Perhaps. Yeah.
And with the anchor line being the only line attached, probably should just cut the sucker and
gone home.
And those are one of the things that they say. It's better to just lose the anchor and not getting into that. So from the risk management perspective, what do you think that they should have plan ahead? Should they think that could happen? Because I'm pretty sure they didn't. I dare to think that they didn't consider this as a scenario.
Well, getting back to the anchor, I fish on mud, I fish on slabwood, and I go to Canada and fish in rocks. Almost every time I have at least 3 different style anchors in my boat.
Okay.
One of them is an aluminum tined grapple that my motor is strong enough to straighten the tine zone.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't get hooked up and stay that way. So you should probably plan on the type of terrain you're going to be anchoring in. If you put a Danforth down in the rocks, you might just as well not tie it to the boat because you'll never get it back. And
So from the planning.
So they
you
could
know,
have planned the type of anchor they're going to
Yeah,
use.
they needed to know more about anchoring and
Yeah.
what to do about it. Maybe they knew a lot about fishing, but they needed to do more about, need to know more about anchoring if you're gonna anchor. What kind of anchor
What kind
to
of-
use,
Yep,
and then, starting the boat and trying to release it is maybe not a bad idea, but obviously the way they did it was a really bad idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't back down.
you can try to back down and pull it out, but you can't just try to plunge ahead and,
any bets they back down into the wave?
well,
correct. So
Any bets?
absolutely, I agree with the input. Thank you. So from the risk management perspective, I think, and please tell me if you concur with me, they would have maybe take a look at the charts. Okay, if we're planning to go into the Gulf of Mexico, and I know that I want to go here. Okay, how is the
rocks,
depth, the
corals,
type of
sand.
bottom to
Yeah.
determine the right anchor? That would be planning. Now again, I'm pretty sure they were excited about the having fun, a great day fishing. Okay, but again, I want to be honest. I dare to think that they did not spend time to say, okay, let's take 5 minutes to think about what could go
what
wrong.
could go wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
So determine the type of waters they were going to go, how far they were going to go, if they were going to have enough. They were wearing the vests, but the one survivor is telling afterwards that they just released, they took off. So
The
having-
question I have about that, and you may not know the answer, and I don't, because I don't remember the incident that well, was the removal of the vest one of those late hypothermia stage incoherent kind of things? I mean, or did they just get in the water and remove the vest? Because that's really stupid.
Seems
Right.
like it.
I don't know. You will say. I don't know. However, one thing that I know is that if at least one of them made it, that tells me that he maybe could have helped the others say don't do it, right? Or help somehow. I'm not accusing him of doing nothing.
If you keep your vest on, at least they'll find your body.
Yeah,
That's one thing. But the other one, and again, we are going to see this maybe in 10 more minutes, is techniques to deal with. It happened already. So you plan for it, it's capsized, now what I do? Okay, so we are 4 of us. Hey guys,
yeah,
let's come
Let's
together.
come
Forget
together,
about
yeah.
the other 4 guys.
get out of the water. as much as you can.
Let's stay together, right? So that is going to help to keep the heat.
And if you got one guy that's suffering, make a threesome and let somebody be in the middle.
Exactly. So that goes back to that bullet point about training, right? So now is the time to use it. So those type of things is first to identify what could go wrong, now how it's going to impact, and then what we're going to do. So again, so identify what could go wrong, then assess it and what we are going to do. So this is the way that I try to keep it in my mind, just as a visual. Look into the future, and I included, we are not used to do that because it's not fun, and some people say like, oh no, don't be pessimistic. Well, I don't think that is to be pessimistic, it's to be, to have a prevention for it, right? To see, okay, what could go wrong? How it's going to impact me, if it's going to ruin my fishing day, my boating with the family, etc. And then how I'm going to deal with that. Nothing wrong with it. Better to spend 10 minutes ahead than become an accident or a tragedy like in this case. So yeah, that was it.